I recently had the thought, do healthier citizens lead to a lower GDP? Or another way of thinking of it, do you have to have a lower GDP to have a really healthy and happy country? I looked at data from the World Population Review and the World Happiness Report. My assumption is that as GDP increases, you have more disposable income, at least if it's GDP per capita, meaning what is the overall production per person in an economy on average. At least, again, that's the assumption that I would make. And then on the flip side of that, you would think that if you had a country that was happy and healthy, that they would be more productive and be higher in the GDP per capita, kind of like a virtuous circle, if you will. But as it turns out, none of those are completely accurate all the time. Let's take Finland, for example, who has been at the top of the happiness charts from the World Happiness Index or the World Happiness Report, and they've been up at the top one spot for several years now. They are ranked 29th in overall GDP. They are still in the top 20 in terms of health, but it's surprising that their GDP is much lower. On the contrary, or kind of a counter example to Finland, is you have Singapore, which has the number 2 spot in terms of GDP per capita, very wealthy country per capita, but it is ranked 30th when it comes to happiness. And then you have another country, Israel, which is ranked 34th in GDP per capita, yet has a 5th ranking when it comes to overall happiness of the country and its citizens. And then one more interesting example, there's two, Kuwait and Costa Rica, but I'll do Costa Rica. Costa Rica ranks 65th in GDP per capita, yet is ranked 12th when it comes to happiness. So most of the countries in the top 20 of happiness also are higher in GDP per capita, but not all of them. Look at Costa Rica, look at Israel. And then again, some of the countries that had the highest GDP had quite low happiness levels. Another interesting example is the United States, where young people are ranked like 65th or 66th in terms of happiness from a country standpoint, whereas older people, 60 and up, are ranked number 10. So there's huge discrepancy in the US, Canada, and I believe New Zealand and Australia when it comes to the happiness of the young versus the old. So there's some weird thing happening in the US for people 30 years and younger versus the boomer generation. So there is some discrepancy there, and we can make lots of assumptions of why that is, but it is very interesting to see that bore out in the data. So I don't think it's really true that healthier citizens leads to lower GDP. I think that in the United States, we could work on becoming healthier while also maintaining our edge in GDP overall, in GDP per capita. The problem with that is there are lots of incentives for the United States industries to not necessarily want people to be healthier. For example, if we took less medication, if we drove less distance, and if we ate less fast food, and we scrolled less on social media, this would all mean that the industries that rely on us to interact with those things, it means that they would be in decline and our money would have to go elsewhere. I think that we would figure out where to put that money. Maybe we would put it into just more social services to just serve the greater good. Maybe we would just put more money into health type products. That money could be reallocated and other industries could become larger because of that. However, the automotive industry, the advertising industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and the healthcare industry itself, and I include the health insurance industry in that too, which is a big mess. They are entrenched and they don't really want things to change all that much. They don't really want people to get healthier. In fact, I don't know that it's they don't want people to get healthier. More so, it is that they are incentivized to increase their profits. And so whatever choices they make are going to be for that. And whatever the downstream effects are, if that means Americans continue to be unhealthy and not taking care of themselves, that's just part of the deal. I don't think that's right, but that is kind of the problem with various industries right now. So again, I think we could maintain our GDP and GDP per capita, but it would then be redistributed. That productivity would be redistributed into other areas, and the current titans of industry would not see that as something that is favorable to them. Oh, and one other interesting thing is that all of the countries, except for two, New Zealand and Australia, have less than 30 million people, the ones that are the happiest. So it might be that as a country gets too large, you start to build more pockets of isolation. And it's kind of like if you're at a small concert with like 1,000 people, how it's like really intimate, and you probably will get to know some people and everyone there is kind of a super fan, they really care, versus you go to like a concert in a football stadium with 60,000 people. It's cool, it's immersive, but it's not quite the same, it's not as intimate, and the experience is not going to be quite as intense, if you will, or enjoyable, maybe. I mean, that's my perspective, having been to small concerts and big concerts. So I think probably the same thing happens with countries, is you just get so large, it's just hard to build a cohesive message around that. It's kind of similar to corporate culture. Like, a lot of small companies can be super cool to work for and exciting and fun, but the larger you get, kind of the more lifeless it becomes. And I think this is probably what happens to countries too. I haven't looked into that too much. I literally just had that thought. So I'm curious what you guys think. If you think that, look at the World Happiness Report, read that. Let me know what you think about the 2024 one that I went through. Let me know if you have different perspectives on the GDP per capita and health or happiness side of things, and always open to hear your feedback on that too. But have a great day, and I'll catch you later.